Hello everybody, welcome back to Graceful Embroidery. Today I'm going to be doing another quilt block in my new 260 by 260 hoop. But before I start that, I thought I would show you the process, or one of the processes that I use to select the colours that I'm going to use. What I have done so far is I've hooped up in this wonderful new hoop one layer of stitch and tear and 2 layers of batting. I've done this successfully a couple of times. Sometimes one layer just doesn't give enough oomph to the quilt block, so I've used temporary adhesive between all these layers, and then we've got a nice layer of silk dupion. And what I've done for this particular stitch out, I've taken one of the quilt blocks in the Almond Silk Paisley collection and I've created a border for it. Now I think there are 6 or 8 blocks in Almond Silk Paisley for your 8x8 hoops, but obviously if we're going to stitch out one of those in the 260 or the 10-inch square hoop, we need to make the quilt bigger. So I've created this border, and that border will be available to you. I'll give you a link at the end of this video. So what I've done is, first of all, I picked out this beautiful lilac silk dupion, and I wanted to do the block on this, but it's been hanging around in my drawers too long and it's got lines on it, so I can't iron those out. So instead I'm going to use it for the appliques on here, but I'm going to also look at that colour and see what embroidery silks go nicely with it. Now my first stitch out with these little swirls around the edge here, and I've done those in Silky Rayon 1085, which is silver, and I need to find 5 more colours to complete this stitch out. Now obviously when you've got a white silk or an ivory silk here, you've got to be very careful about adding whites and ivories. Light colours will look even lighter. So I was wondering what would happen if we put in a nice dark grey like that. It certainly looks lovely on the silk there. And we don't want to introduce too many colours. You know I'm passionate about this, and this is why I thought I'd do this for you to show you the process. So what I do is I grab my lilacs. Well, the first thing to do is to try and find, let's put that grey over there, is to find colours that go quite nicely with this silk. If not, actually match it. That's quite a pink one, which gives a nice contrast. When you're looking at silk dupion, you have to be aware that quite often, especially with the slubby ones or the silk dupion that are shot, you've got 2 different colours, the waft and the what's the other one? You know what I mean. Just remember with silk sometimes that you have 2 different colours that have been woven to create the texture, and so sometimes it's nice to look closely at the silk and see actually what colours have been used. Now that's a nice dark one. I wonder if anything darker will look good. Now you see, I think that is too severe. When it's sitting on my thread racks, it doesn't look as dark, but as soon as I put it here on the light lilac, on the heathery type silk, it doesn't look good. So I wouldn't go for that. I think that one is quite nice. Now that is just a bit too pinky, I think. It doesn't blend in with the others. As you can see, I'm quite fussy about this. And it's a process of elimination. Now that's definitely gone too pink, although perhaps one element stitched in a different contrast, in a different colour, would add a little bit of contrast to it. Let's leave it on there for now. Now, if we're going to go for this sort of bluey grey, and we've used the silver as well, I don't think we need another light colour, so I'm going to put that one back. And I've got this one here as well, which adds a completely different dimension to it. Let's stand that one up here, and I'm going to put the dark ones at the back. Now those two are quite alike. We've got three sort of lilacs here, and then we've got the pinky ones, if you see what I mean. Now, if I wanted to add something really different, what would I put on? Well, let's try a few, because sometimes it's not always obvious what will go nicely. No, not really, I don't think. And we definitely don't want to go sort of too pink or orange. Just notice how that shouts. It's wrong, don't do it. Coppers and browns, not really. No blending at all. I've used a colour wheel in the past, and I found it helpful, but I find that I've got the eye, I can see what goes and what doesn't, and I don't think we want to go down the road of introducing too much blue. We could do. Now I've got no greens here. Now would a green work? That is a very interesting combination, but it's just a little bit too loud for me. But it could work. You could tone it down with a lighter turquoise. I think I'm nearly here. Sorry, I knocked the camera then. No, doesn't work. In fact, if you wanted a contrast, you could go for good old gold, which is Sulky Rayon 1070. I can't see anything else up here that would really look good. I wasn't going to have this one, but I think that looks better than the real big contrast of the gold. I'm just going to try a couple more. Now that's interesting. I think that almost works. So if that works, I would pick up another shade that's very like it. Now we've got 1838 and 1828, and I think I prefer that one. I think that's nice. Now I want 5 colours, and I've got too many colours here, so I've got to do some elimination here. If I take away that dark one, no, I think we need the dark one, and I can use it for stitches that are like running stitches, or the surround. Perhaps I'll take out the grey. Now, how many more do we need to take out? We need to take out, there isn't much between those two. That one is just a bit too purple. Sorry if it's not possible to see all these colours. We're almost there. Now I know sometimes I just stitch away and I choose my colours as I'm going, and that does work. But for this one, I just was going to show you how colours look together, and they look different in different situations. So which one am I going to take out? Which would you take out? Well, I definitely want that one, and I definitely want that one. And this one is almost... Whoops! Sorry, I'm very lazy. I don't secure my spools. I think that's the selection that I'm going to go for, and I'll just read these out to you so that you know. I've got Sulky Rayon 1828. I don't know if that's shrimp flesh or what it is. It's one of the new ones, and I love all the sulky threads that start with an 8. This is 1193. And this is 1254, which I think is dusky lavender. This is 1213, which is taupe, I think. And this is 1082, which is orchid. And then we've got lastly 1297. And I still haven't got enough, have I? But looking at my screen, just because there are 5 colours to choose from, they are stitched at different times, so I will keep the extra one, and as I look at each element I can make a decision as to which to use. And there'll be backups too, or I can combine colours. Let's see how we go, and I'll stitch this out, and later on in the video I'll explain to you how you can get hold of this border to add to your almond silk paisley designs. I am showing you this section of the stitch out of this block because I want to emphasize something. I colour sorted the combination of the outside with the block, and when it colour sorted it didn't do it accurately because the fill stitches that go on top of this applique stitched out before the appliques. So you must be very careful when you colour sort, especially when appliques are part of the design. I've applied lots of fabric glue for each section, and I've pressed these down very firmly, and I tend to use more glue than I used to because they do move around, and as you see, because these 4 paisleys are quite close, I've had to trim so that they don't overlap and the machine can stitch it out all nicely. Now I've finished the 260 block, we're going to have a little look at it and analyse how it turned out, and I'll show you some of the mistakes that I made. I always like to do that because it helps you avoid them. Here we can see the finished hoop. Now it didn't turn out perfectly, there were mistakes, but then I have to ask, is there any such thing as a perfect embroidery stitch out? One of the first thing I've mentioned before, one of the things that I did wrong, but do you see what's happened here? I mean, I've moved this around a few times, so the whole thing has been cut out of the hoop. Now this can happen if the borders around the blocks are too dense and too small. So a second layer would probably help, a second layer of stitch and tear. But actually, even though it pulled away up here, it all stitched out perfectly. It was because it was being held at the sides. There you saw it pull out on 3 sides. It was actually only this top bit that pulled out. Now overall, I am delighted with this block. It's turned out very well. It's very pretty. I like the colours. I did make, there were a few adjustments that I'd like to have made. But overall, you get the picture of how pretty these blocks can be. I need to do a little bit of tidying up. As you can see, there are a few silk threads sticking out on the paisleys, but they are laying very flat. And remember that the motif fill stitches underneath, well, they're meant to go on top, but they're underneath, and notice that they just give a little bit of texture to that silk. I didn't bother to stitch them out again, and you don't have to stitch them out at all, but that has worked out very well. And this is just such an amazing hoop. It really is. I love it. And I hope that you'll love it too. I am going to, I've just seen a jump stitch which hasn't cut. So that's my block, and I think that would make a lovely cushion. Check the description underneath this video and you will see how you can get hold of the panel that goes round here. And remember, this here is an 8x8 hoop design, and then the panel has been put round it, an inch panel all the way around, which takes it up to the side of the 260 hoop, which is an incredible hoop. I love it. And I'm going to alter some of my romantic crazy quilt blocks to fit this hoop, and also I will be creating new designs for this wonderful hoop. This is one of the designs that I have stitched out in this wonderful 260 square hoop. It's been stitched on ivory silk, and we have one layer of batting and one layer of stitch and tear. I chose sort of spring type colours for this, and this is a block which features elements from the Pamela's Joy collection. Hope you like it. Let's zoom in and let me show you how this crisscross design gives you a little bit of lift to the embroidery. This is just such a marvellous hoop. I mean, obviously you don't need to use it just for quilt blocks. I've noticed before this hoop came out that I was using my 360 by 260 hoop, and I was getting a lot of waste at the top and the bottom. And do remember that, as I've said before, square hoops give an even tension all the way round. You need to use clips because they are big. But I have to agree, before this hoop came out, my favourite hoop was the 200 square hoop, but this is by far my favourite hoop now.